Where legends breathe again. Eldmyth. The sea does not forget. It holds memory in its pressure in the cold, lightless trenches where time collapses. For as long as humans have ventured beyond the sight of shore, we have known we were trespassers. The horizon was not a boundary but a veil, and from the depths beneath that veil, shapes have always risen to meet us. Not mere animals but manifestations. Embodiments of the ocean's utter indifference, its chaotic wrath, its hungry, abyssal silence. This is a chronicle of 5 such incarnations, beings born from the foam of nightmare and the salt of ancestral dread. They are the old gods of the drowned places, the leviathans of legend. Their stories were carved into the hulls of ships and whispered in storm-lashed rigging. Some were softened into metaphor, their true form censored by time and trembling scribes. But in their original telling, they were not monsters. They were the sea itself, given a mouth, given a will, given an endless, patient appetite. To understand them is to stare into the abyss, and to see, for a terrifying moment, that the abyss has been staring back all along. The cold waters of the North Atlantic hold a different kind of dark. Sunlight dies quickly here, in the realm of the fjords and the endless gray sea. This is the domain of the Kraken. Its name, from the Old Norse, means a twisted or malformed thing, but its earliest mentions in the 13th century Icelandic sagas speak not of a squid, but of the halfgufa, the sea steam or sea mist. It was less an animal and more a geographic feature, a living island. Sailors would speak of seeing a new, rocky shore where none should be, encrusted with seaweed and shellfish. They would make landfall upon its back light fires, only for the island to shudder and sink, dragging all into the freezing void. This was the Kraken's first form, a patient, geologic predator. It did not hunt, it simply was, and its existence was a trap. By the 18th century, the tales had sharpened, fed by the whispers of whalers and the rare, terrified survivor. The Kraken now had form, a cephalopod of mountain size, with arms like the roots of world trees, each lined with suckers the size of millstones that could strip the hull from a man-o'-war. Its surfacing was an apocalypse. The sea would boil for miles around as its body breached, creating a maelstrom of its own making. Its ink would darken the ocean for leagues, a midnight smokescreen in which ships vanished forever. The sound was described as a subterranean roar, a grinding of continental plates. It did not consume ships out of malice, but with the passive, devastating efficiency of a landslide. It was a force of nature made flesh, a reminder that the ocean's floor could rise, and that the world was not solid but alive and hungry beneath your feet. The fear it inspired was not of sharp teeth, but of scale, of being rendered utterly insignificant. Reverence took the form of silence. To speak its name at sea was to invite its attention. Offerings were not trinkets, but entire barrels of whale oil or mead, dumped overboard in hope of sating a thirst that could never be quelled. The Kraken symbolized the ultimate environmental indifference, the sea's capacity to simply erase you, not with a roar but with a slow, inevitable descent into the cold and the dark. It shaped the very charts of explorers. Vast areas of ocean were marked hic sunt dracones, or simply left blank, not out of ignorance, but out of a cartographer's superstitious dread. They were drawing the creature territory. If the Kraken is the cold, mindless hunger of the deep, the Leviathan is its divine, cosmic wrath. Its origins coil through the oldest Semitic and Canaanite myths, a chaos dragon of the primeval sea, named Latin. But it is in the Hebrew text that the Leviathan finds its most terrifying and profound articulation. It is not a creature God made on the 5th day. It is a creature from before the ordering of creation, a remnant of the formless void given glorious, terrible shape. The Book of Job describes it in awe-stricken, fearful detail. Its back made of rows of shields, fused together so tight no air can come between. Its sneezing flashes light. Its eyes are like the dawn. Flames dart from its mouth. Smoke pours from its nostrils. It is a creature of sublime, unstoppable power, a serpent king over all the proud. Its habitat is not a location, but a state, the cosmic sea of chaos that lies beneath and around the ordered world. It is the embodiment of everything humanity cannot control. The untamable sea, the political empires that crush the faithful, the existential terror of a universe that seems, at times, ruled by monstrous, anarchic force. The Leviathan is not a predator to be avoided, but a fundamental opponent to divine order. In some apocryphal texts, it is said that at the end of days, God will finally slay the Leviathan and its land-bound counterpart, Behemoth, and feed their flesh to the righteous at a great feast. But this is the key. It must be preserved until that time. Its continued existence is a testament to a world still in tension, still unfinished. The reverence here is theological, drenched in paradox. The Leviathan is feared as the ultimate enemy, yet it is also a proof of God's majesty, for only a God who can contain such a being is worthy of worship. To see the Leviathan was to see the raw fabric of reality fraying. Its hidden aspect is its sheer, world-ending scale. Medieval bestiaries, trying to soften this, often depicted it as a large whale. But the original text implies something that, in swimming, makes the deep boil like a cauldron. It is the deep itself, personified as a sovereign. Its symbolic meaning is the chaos that civilization is built upon, the terrifying freedom and anarchy that laws and walls and ships are desperately erected to hold back. We do not sail past the Leviathan. We sail perpetually on the skin of it. Not all terrors dwell in the open deep. Some guard the passages. In the narrow, cliff-lined Strait of Messina, where the water churns with conflicting currents, the Greeks placed Scylla. She was once a beautiful nymph, transformed by a jealous Circe into a thing of perpetual hunger and rage. But her mythic function far outweighs her origin story. Scylla inhabits a cavern in the sheer rock face. She is not a single beast, but a hybrid horror. From the waist up, a terrifying woman with a face of fury. From the waist down, a cluster of 6 long, serpentine necks, each ending in a head with 3 rows of needle-sharp teeth. And surrounding her, the writhing bodies of baying dogs, for her loins are girded with the heads of vicious hounds. Her behavior is mechanical, predictable, and therefore all the more dreadful. She does not roam, she waits. As ships are forced to pass close to her cliff to avoid the whirlpool Charybdis opposite, her heads dart down, plucking sailors from the deck with the swift, precise violence of a heron catching fish. Homer's Odyssey describes the sound, the high, dying screams of men, the triumphant yelping of the dog heads, the splash as the ship, now lighter, sails on. Scylla represents a specific, cruel type of danger, the unavoidable cost of passage. She is the embodiment of the predatory coastline, the rock in a hard place made flesh. To navigate her strait is to choose to sacrifice a few to save the many. She turns the captain into a calculating grim reaper. The fear she inspires is intimate, surgical. It is not the total annihilation of the kraken, but the selective, graphic culling. Reverence for Scylla was purely avoidance. No offerings, only whispered prayers for speed and a steady helm. Her symbolic meaning is the personification of tragic, localized disaster, the specific, greedy danger that waits where geography funnels the vulnerable. She is the pirate ambush, the treacherous shoal given a face and an appetite. She reminds us that sometimes survival is not about defeating the monster, but about appeasing it with a measured, bloody toll. Her hidden aspect lies in her victim's perspective. To be chosen, plucked from the community of the ship and dragged into a stony, shrieking darkness, while your comrades sail on, saved by your loss. Opposite Scylla's cliff, the water itself goes mad. This is Charybdis. She is not a creature with form, but a creature of formlessness, a living vortex. Described as a daughter of Poseidon and Gaia, she was cursed by Zeus for flooding lands and turned into a monster, forever drinking and spewing the sea. But this origin is almost an afterthought. Charybdis is the whirlpool. She is the personality of the abyss given motion, a great, swallowing mouth that opens in the water 3 times a day, sucking down everything within a league, ships, whales, debris, and all, before belching it back up in a stew of splinters and foam. Her habitat is the same as Scylla's, creating the primordial dilemma: be taken by the many-headed horror, or risk being utterly consumed by the hungry deep. Charybdis represents absolute impersonal destruction. There is no negotiation, no selection. Her maw is the ocean turning inside out. The sound is not a roar, but a deafening, hollow gurgle, the sound of a world draining. To be caught in her pull was to witness the sea itself defy its own nature, to form a liquid funnel into nothingness. Where Scylla is personal rage, Charybdis is cosmic digestion. She inspired a fear that was less about a monster and more about the physics of the world betraying you. Reverence was pure terror. She had no cult, no offerings, for what do you give to a vacuum? Her symbolic meaning is consumption, the cyclical, mindless hunger of nature that takes all things back into the primordial soup. She is entropy. She is the black hole of ancient cosmology. Her hidden aspect is what lies after the swallowing. The myths only speak of destruction, but folklore hints at another fate, that those sucked down are not crushed but spat out elsewhere, into a drowned, upside-down world or a different sea entirely. She is not just a killer, but a chaotic, involuntary portal, a one-way journey to a place from which there is no mythic return. In the still, mist-shrouded waters off the coast of Japan, the terror arrives not with a roar but with an unnatural calm. This is the domain of the Yumebazu, the sea monk or sea priest. It appears on mirror-flat, silent seas under a moonlit or foggy sky, a direct repudiation of the storm-driven monsters of the West. Its form is that of a gigantic humanoid shadow, black as ink, rising from the depths. It is often depicted as featureless, or with a bald, moon-like head, evoking the shaved pate of a Buddhist monk, a perversion of the sacred. Its scale is never clear. It may be as tall as a mast, or it may be so large its shoulders blot out the horizon. The Yumebazu's behavior is enigmatic and ritualistic. It does not immediately attack. It simply appears, a silent, sentient menhir of darkness blocking the way. Sometimes it will speak in a deep, resonant voice, asking a single, strange question. What is the sound of the sea? Other times it demands a barrel or a ladle. This is the trap. To answer philosophically or to offer an empty vessel is to invite annihilation. The only escape, according to lore, is to give it a bottomless ladle, an impossible request, a riddle with no answer. It then may capsize the boat in a fit of silent rage, or simply sink back beneath the waves, leaving the sailors mad with dread. The fear it inspires is psychological, spiritual. It is not the chaos of the sea, but its silence given malignant intent. It represents the ocean's capricious, inscrutable will. Why does it ask questions? Why does it want a ladle? The mystery is the monster. Reverence is found in countless rituals and taboos. Never paint your boat a proud color, never boast of your catch, never whistle at sea. All actions that might attract the notice of this serene, judging entity. The Yumebazu symbolizes the arbitrariness of fate on the water. A storm is a reason. The Yumebazu is not. Its hidden aspect is its potential origin. Some scholars suggest tales of the Yumebazu were used to explain sudden freak waves or the eerie, still deaths of fishermen from no visible cause. But in the folklore, it is more. It is the ghost of drowned priests, the vengeful spirit of the sea itself. A reminder that the ocean is not just physically dangerous, but possesses a will, a consciousness, and a profound, unsettling sense of humor that ends in drowning. Silence returns to the strait. The whirlpool settles into a deceptive calm. The mist over the Japanese sea dissipates, revealing an empty expanse. The North Atlantic fog rolls back, showing only gray water meeting gray sky. These are the landscapes the monsters leave behind, not ruins of stone, but ruins of confidence. An empty dock creaking in the night. A forgotten lighthouse, its lens dark, staring blindly at the deep. A parchment map on a table in a silent study, its edges curling, the vast blank spaces in the ocean seeming to pulse with a life of their own. The scent of salt, of wet rope, of old fear, lingers in the air of coastal villages. The wind carries not a roar but a sigh, the exhalation of a world that is mostly water and mostly unknown. We built our fires on the shore, told our stories of land beasts and sky gods, but always our peripheral vision was drawn to that shifting, murmuring horizon. It is in these quiet, in-between moments when the immediate terror has passed that the deeper dread sets in. The dread that the creatures were not visitations but permanent residents, that they have not left, they have only submerged. And the sea, in its timeless patience, is simply waiting for us to forget, to grow bold, to venture out once more onto a surface that is, and has always been, a lid. Consider them now, not as five separate entities, but as a chorus of the same primal scream sung in different keys across the world. The Kraken with its geologic hunger, the Leviathan with its divine chaos, Scylla and Charybdis, the brutal choice between personal and impersonal doom, the Umebazu, the silent, judging will. They are all environmental deities of the negative space, the parts of the map we could not fill. They answer the same human need, to give a face to the faceless terror of the deep. It is easier to fear a thing with teeth and eyes than to fear a simple, sudden absence of buoyancy, a silent slip into the cold. These creatures are that fear, crystallized into myth. They represent the sea's many personalities, its mindless consumption, its sovereign wrath, its predatory geography, its cyclical entropy, its inscrutable caprice. Psychologically, they are manifestations of our own subconscious depths, the chaotic, hungry, unknown parts of ourselves that we keep submerged. Every culture that touched an ocean invented them because they had to. The alternative was to accept that the greatest threat was impersonal, random, and utterly indifferent. A monster can be tricked, appeased, or even revered. A void cannot. So we populated the void with kings and priests and whirlpools that breathe, because a world with monsters is, somehow, more comprehensible than a world with none. The age of sail has passed. Our charts have no blank spaces. Satellites map every current, sonar probes the deepest trenches, and yet the Leviathans have not vanished, they have migrated. They thrive now in the ecosystems of modern fantasy, cinema, and video games, their ancient bones repurposed for new tales. The Kraken is a boss to be slain with cannons and magic. The Leviathan is a mecha or a spaceship's name. Scylla and Charybdis are metaphors for corporate dilemmas. The Umebazu inspires anime ghosts. Our fear has been metabolized into fascination, the awe stripped of its mortal consequence, but something essential remains. In the best modern depictions, the creature is not just a big animal. It retains its symbolic weight. It is the untamable, the unknowable, the environmental catastrophe given form. The haunting score that accompanies its reveal, the protagonist's stunned silence, these are echoes of the old reverence. We have traded the sacrificial lamb for the movie ticket, the prayer for the pause button. But when the lights go down and the screen shows the shadow rising from a digital sea, for a moment, the old pact is renewed. We are no longer masters of our world, but children on a fragile craft, remembering in our marrow what waits in the dark just beyond the firelight. What do these creatures tell us about ourselves? That we are storytellers first and foremost, that we cannot abide a vacuum of meaning. We looked at the chaotic, destructive, beautiful, and terrifying power of the ocean, and we insisted it must have a mind, an intent. We made the environment a person because you can bargain with a person. You can hate a person. You can tell stories about a person. These bestiary entries are not records of zoology, but records of negotiation. They are humanity's first, desperate attempts at a treaty with a world that does not negotiate. They speak of our need for control in an uncontrollable universe, our desire for a reason behind random tragedy. But they also speak of our capacity for awe. To imagine the Leviathan is to acknowledge something greater, more terrible, and more magnificent than ourselves. It is a humbling act. In an age where we believe we have dominated nature, these myths are a vital corrective. They whisper that there are still leviathanic scales, that some forces remain sovereign. We did not conquer the sea. We merely learned, through centuries of drowned sacrifices and whispered lore, to skirt its thrones. And in doing so, we preserved a fragment of sacred fear, the understanding that we are and may always be guests in a world that is mostly deep and mostly dark. So let the final image not be of a monster, but of the sea itself. As night falls and the last light bleeds from the sky, watch the water. It is not empty. It is full of memory and potential. In the sigh of the wave on the shingle, you might hear the echo of Charybdis drinking. In the sudden, smooth patch of water on a windy day, you might sense the Yumibazu preparing to rise. The tangled kelp that brushes your ankle is just kelp, and perhaps the ghost of a tentacle reminding you of its claim. These creatures are not gone. They have receded into the symbolism from which they came. They are the shape of the wave that could swamp you, the current that could pull you under, the deep cold that waits. They are the stories we will tell again, when the next ship vanishes without a trace, when the sonar blip is too large, when the storm surge breaks the levees. They linger in the liminal space between knowledge and mystery, between the safety of the shore and the call of the horizon. We have mapped the world, but we have not mapped the dark within it or within us. The bestiary is closed, but the pages are wet, and the deep, patient, and hungry remains. Another legend fades, but the next awaits. Like this video, subscribe and continue the journey through myths.